Good evening, everyone in Alberta, Canada, and beyond. It is Wednesday, June 26th, 2024, and I'm Kerry Lambert, and I welcome you to an evening of solutions for a new Alberta, brought to you by the Alberta Prosperity Project, also known as APP. APP's purpose is to educate, inspire, and unite all Albertans, businesses, and organizations to protect their prosperity, individual freedoms, rights, and self-determination by empowering the Alberta government to restructure Alberta's relationship within or without Canada. And of course, couldn't do this without your help. If you can, please share this webinar. We are all over the place. We are on YouTube. We are on Rumble. We're on LinkedIn. After this whole thing is done, we end up repackaging it all, and we end up going out on Spotify and Apple Podcast, etc. So if you like what you hear, what you see, please do share. If you can, APP is membership driven, with a goal of 1 million plus members to help steer the political process. And of course, you can find out much more than what I'm going to tell you tonight. Just go to Alberta, well, you can go there too, albertaprosperityproject.com. And that will tell you what we're all about. APP memberships are 1 year for $20, 2 years for $30, 3 years for $40, or you can also make a donation at albertaprosperityproject.com. Of course, we are doing our Support 5 initiative. I'm just going to jump onto that, which is under Support Us on the website here. Click. Wait. Internet seems to be slow today. I hope everybody's able to see me. We have our Support 5 initiative, and of course, that is 555. 5 minutes a week on social media. Please like, share, and comment on our posts. Send it out to your friends, neighbors, and even people you don't like. Send it out to them. Recruiting 5 new supporters monthly. Of course, if you can send that out to email or text, and we can grow our supporters by five supporters monthly for every single person that's on there now, we will be done, and then you won't be able to see me again, because I'll just say, well, I'm done. No, there's always stuff to do. But the idea with that is it grows to our community strength and our reach and our network, of course. And of course, the last part, I hate asking for money, but you know what? Everything has to do with money. Even this website, as I'm talking right now, costs money just to host this stuff. We are asking for a $5 monthly donation to fuel our initiatives, empowering us to plan effectively and push forward toward our goals. If you're able to do that, please. Again, more information you can find on the website itself. We have actually slowing down a little bit for events this summer. You know what? There's always stuff to do. But, you know, it's during summer, it's a little bit more difficult to arrange meetings. So if you want to find out more, you can always go on to our events page into here on the website as well. But I also want to point out again, it's amazing that our good buddy Max does. I'm not even sure what I do with there it is. Max puts together this amazing website, and it's freedomcalendar.net. And of course, it has to do with anything freedom related, anything to do with Alberta. We have our pension plan. You can sort by topic, by location. If you're, say, in Red Deer, or you're in Grand Prairie, you want to find out what's going on, just use this website. It's even better than ours. Do I dare say that it's even better than ours? freedomcalendar.net. Thanks again, Max, for going ahead and doing all that. And so here's our events. We always do have chapter meetings. There's always stuff going on with that too. But yeah, things have slowed down a little bit for us during the summer, and that kind of makes sense that it would. And I'm looking forward to. Do I dare say I'm looking forward to September again, when things start to get really busy? And they will. There's always stuff to do. We are still doing door knocking, just so that people know. So there is the ability to volunteer. You can always, again, just go on the website and sign up. You can also go to contact@albertaprosperity.com. Send us an email. Say, how can I get involved? And we will tell you how to get involved. The other thing that I should be mentioning, how to get involved. Man, I've been so involved lately with this group, the Alberta First Pension Plan. We have done, I think it's been over 70 events in the last few months, that actual in-person events. And last night, we also did an online town hall. We did an online town hall because this is something that people have been asking for. Sometimes you just can't get out to a meeting. It might be on a day that you're busy, maybe a hockey game's on or something like that, and you just can't get away. So now that there's no hockey, you should be able to at least look online. We're going to be doing these online town halls every second Tuesday. So there's something else for you to look at every second Tuesday, as well as every Wednesday. Of course, we do our APP webinar series. So you can always go on. Again, let me just show that. It is under albertafirstpension.ca. And the other thing, we're asking not only for donations for everything that we do, but we also want people to sign up. Of course, we've asked people to sign up for the Alberta Prosperity Project. I'm going to show you how to do this for the Alberta First Pension Plan. Really easy. Right where it says sign up now, you click on it. And there it is. Right to the page. Put in your first name, last name, email, blah, 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 blah. And there's even a little spot, I want to volunteer. If you want to volunteer, we're going to get door knockers. We're going to be doing, our goal is to do 100 of these events for the Alberta First Pension. And in order to get 100 done, like I said, it's going to end up taking place in September. But during the summer, there is tons of events going out there. There's rodeos, there's farmers markets kind of thing. Granted, we can't actually go in and canvass there, but what I would like to do is to actually have people sitting outside and maybe telling people, maybe handing out some brochures. So if you're keen to do that, sign up and then go, I want to volunteer. The other thing that I want to do to show you, and I'm just going to go back to here again, sign up now, go to that page. You can also click on here, the URL. And of course, you can't see it because that's just the way the operating system works. But if you right click on it, you can copy that, or you can go up to over to here, this little icon over here, which is also your copy. You click on it. Of course, I can see it on my screen. You don't see it. But you can copy that link and then email it. Email it to 2 friends. They'll email it to 2 friends, and so on and so on and so on. And likewise, if you don't want to email it, just text it to them. There's always a way to get this word out. So anyways, that's a bit of my rambling right now. I hope you don't mind my rambling. We got a few people on here tonight. Thank you so much for coming out and watching what we do here every single Wednesday. I'm just going to hide a few of these things for a second, if you don't mind. Way too many things going on here. Tonight's episode is called Reclaiming Canada, with, of course, my good buddy Christopher Scott, the past CEO of the APP, and he also makes a delicious burger at the Stop Cafe in Mere, Alberta. Chris was at the Reclaiming Canada conference in BC this past weekend, and he got to chat with other speakers as well as being involved in 2 panels. 2 panels. So we'll hear from him on how that went, as well as what was accomplished and any future goals, and maybe what the overall feeling is in BC. Which is actually kind of interesting because being in Alberta, we seem to be in this Alberta bubble. I just had, my parents were here from Winnipeg, and so we were talking a little bit about Manitoba. My daughter lives in Vancouver, and she's now living in Victoria, so we were talking a little bit about the politics that are happening there too. So it's quite the wild ride. So Chris will be talking about that as well. And again, just as a reminder, this is a live webinar, so we encourage you to ask questions and make comments throughout this presentation. Just put 3 question marks before your questions to be flagged so we can quickly view the questions. And please share, and look who is not there. I just saw him there, and now he's gone. Well, that's okay. I'm going to still bring him on. Let's see what happens if he's... Chris, are you there? Are you there? You know what? Maybe he's taking a bio break. So just because I rambled on way too long, you know what? I'm going to show you the introduction video for the WeUnify because it's such a good video, And it does show you who was speaking, and then that way we actually don't have to talk a little bit more about that. So here it is.
When the freedom of religion disappears, all your other freedoms follow.
Everything that every government has done since the pandemic started, they have not demonstrably justified was needed.
What is the opportunity to fix it? What is the opportunity to upgrade it and do something better and create something better?
We had people in every province that stepped up. We had helpers in every province. Everyone just came together.
Sound is the most powerful force in the universe. And I believe that through the sound of our voices, the sounds that we make, and the things that we say, we can change the world.
The media, when they portrayed what was going on the ground in the Freedom Convoy, they were not telling the truth.
And when you begin to understand this at a much deeper level, people's behavior will really become apparent, and you'll be able to predict it and also be able to really assist them.
We should be thinking about how do we make sure this doesn't happen again, and they don't tell you how to live your life. These people work for us. It's the government of the people. They work for us.
I was advocating for the Great Barrington Declaration, arguing for focused protection of vulnerable older people and lifting of lockdowns.
The preventable fraction could have been as high as 85% if our pandemic response would have been laser focused on the problem, the sick patient right in front of us.
They're acknowledging past wrongs Canada has allowed to happen in this country, but they won't speak out about 20 churches being burnt or vandalized.
My last question, Mr. Prime Minister, when did you and your government start to become so afraid of your own citizens?
Our argument in court will be that there's just not a scientific basis excluding people from airplane flights, because all the vaccine promises to do is provide protection to the individual recipient.
I think the universe always has a plan. I believe that there's a lot within us that is connected to something greater than us.
I just enjoy living in a society that has some level of standards and how we appear to other people and how we treat one another.
Solutions, right? We're not just talking. That's the other thing that we're trying to make different about this conference. We're not just talking. We want to get people engaged in real solutions to retake control of the country.
This vaccine is the most dangerous vaccine ever created by man.
I have the tears of thousands of Canadians on my shoulder who every day told me that we were bringing them hope.
We need to reclaim our country. We also have to figure out how we undo the harm that's been caused and come up with better solutions.
From the beginning, we were told by CDC, NIH, FDA, etc. that the vaccine would stay at the deltoid injection site. But what we found out is that it enters into the lymph system throughout the body and goes everywhere in the body.
And they look right at me and one guy yells out, "You're a white supremacist." For a minute there, it made me question my reality. I looked down, I said, I am?
What are the greatest threats to freedom that you see right now? If you say smart city to the average person, right, that doesn't sort of raise any alarm bells. Or even talking about CBDCs, I would be surprised if the average person on the street even knows what CBDC means.
Well, that is a lot of people. That is a lot of amazing speakers, and I really wish that I was able to go there. But you know who was there? Mr. Chris Scott. Hello, sir. How are you?
What's up?
You're in your brand new digs. Looking good. You got some speakers behind you. You got some drums.
Yeah, that's been fun. Hey, what's this thing in my screen here? You see where it's talking about LinkedIn?
Yes, don't worry about that. I think
just click it.
You just clicked it?
What happens if I click it?
We try and stream out to various social media platforms. Of course, we go out to Facebook, we go out to Rumble, X, etc. And it just so happens to be that one of it looks like LinkedIn broke somehow.
Okay, I'm going to click remove.
Yeah, I'll have to fix it at some point. So, way to be distracted there, Chris. How are you? I haven't seen you in like weeks because we've both been busy.
Quite.
And
hey, one more thing before we get going. I've had to really kind of set everything up here again, so I'm just going to click through some settings. Tell me which one's the best on this microphone.
You know we're live, right? Yeah.
I know we're live, but everyone loves this stuff. Can you hear a difference? Is there any difference in the microphone?
Yes, you sound terrible. Yes.
That's terrible, and that's better?
That's much better.
And 1 or 2?
One, two, one, or
and
yeah.
one and two and
my daughter, the optometrist,
three.
knows that saying quite
Okay.
well. Are we all
That's
good?
why I did that.
Excellent,
Anyway.
even better. I'll have to edit
Thank
that
you.
out when I repost this, or maybe I'll just keep.
Okay,
So,
now what was the question?
the question was, you ended up going out to Victoria. You were invited out for the WeUnify conference. You were invited quite a while ago. And I think even when you were invited, did you know who was going to be speaking?
Yes.
You did know at that point. Okay.
Yes. So all of those speakers during the initial planning of that conference, I'd been speaking to the organizer and recommending names and
okay,
kind of tossing back and forth who would be a good fit for the conference. So yeah, I knew who was going to be there.
Yeah,
for the most part.
And so you ended up going out there a few days before, got to spend some time with your family, which is always great because
one day. I've spent one day with my family.
Because you've just been working crazy at the bus stop in Mirror, Alberta.
That is true.
And so there's only so much time that you can devote to doing anything. And again, I'd like to thank you on behalf of Alberta Prosperity Project for spending at least an evening with us to enlighten us on everything that you managed to see, hear, taste, dare I say, feel out in BC. And comparing the two between Alberta and BC, what's your preference? That's probably a really
my preference would be to be able to enjoy the benefits of both and know that there's a mutually beneficial relationship between the two provinces.
That would be amazing. And did you find that BC was a little more leftish than here in Alberta?
Not well at times, yes, but you know, in your, it's all fake. It's all an illusion.
Yes, yeah. I was going to get into that
ridiculous crap. It's just pushed in their face so much there that everybody thinks that everyone thinks that way. You know, for the most part, I think that people are very similar province to province, and the sentiment is, whatever. I respect your choices. I'm not going to hate you for it. I might think you're, you know, ridiculous for that choice, but we're still human beings and we can be friends. But there's this idea that everybody has to fit into these little boxes. Like if you are on the left, or if you are liberal at all, well, you have to vote for Justin Trudeau. And then if you vote for Justin Trudeau, you have to believe in the trans ideology. And if you're on the left, well, you also now have to support labor unions, and and you also have to be against capitalism. So I say it's all fake. Like there's pride flags everywhere, even on municipal stuff like the tax dollars pay for. Hotels have stupid slogans like, and I do mean it. It's a stupid slogan. Love is love. All love is accepted here. Really? Was there ever a question of that in like the last 50 years in this country? Or are you just talking about it now because you're a virtue signaling fool that wants to divide people and do the bidding of some globalist or political people, right? So if you ask, is it more woke there? It looks like it. But people are people.
I was just going to say, it may just feel that way because the businesses are the ones that are promoting it. And of course, that's what you see. You see the billboards, you see all that stuff up there. Even today on our Instagram, the Chris Kerry Show, if you don't follow us on the Chris Kerry Show, why not? But I usually post a bunch of memes and stuff on the Facebook and Instagram, and there was one exactly that. It was all about how hot it is, and it was basically like blaming big oil, and it says you should stop big oil. And the question to me was like, so who's actually funding a billboard? We know how much it costs to fund a billboard. We've been looking at funding a billboard for APP. It costs tens of thousands of dollars to do this properly. Do you really think just a group of grassroots concerned citizens would pitch in to put a billboard up to say down with big oil? Like that's got to be coming from somewhere.
It's funded from somewhere, you know. And there's organizations in this country and in this province and in British Columbia that are working against that, and they rely on the support of their supporters, like financial support, right? The one that comes to mind right off the bat is Rebel News. Like, you've seen the Rebel News billboards.
Oh, yeah.
They're very provocative. I mean, they say things like human lives matter, or, very provocative things. But that stuff's all done by people that just want to support that type of work. It doesn't come from Soros through the Tides Foundation or the Suzuki Foundation or whatever. It's all grassroots stuff. But let me show you something, Kerry. Just on that note, you mentioned how they got that Stop Big Oil and it's so hot. I'm going to tell you what those people are actually asking for. And this is one of the reasons why we need to reclaim this country. And you know how I feel about this. I believe that reclaiming Alberta is the first step. But let me show you this. Present. I did a blog a little while ago. Actually, just 2 days ago.
Chris does blogs on the truck stop. Alex, I'll put that in the comments here.
I really enjoy blogging. I enjoy writing. And yeah, so something was on my mind. And of course, it was when I watched Stonehenge, which I was going to go visit when I was in the UK. Yeah. I didn't make it there. But to me, something like Stonehenge is just absolutely amazing, even though we don't know what it is or what it's for. Just the fact that it's been there for thousands of years and we don't know makes me want to go see it. Anyway, I didn't get to go see it. But these idiots decided they're going to go and spray it with orange paint, protesting big oil. So I'm thinking about these things, and I'm thinking, what does this mean when people are being brainwashed or convinced, whatever you want to call it, it's brainwashing, to act out against something that is in their best interest, something self-destructive. And in this case, it's something that's self-destructive for our species. Now, I say that because if it's getting warmer and the climate is changing, or the climate cycle is changing, human beings must adapt and master and overcome these challenges, right? If we're having severe weather events, we need to harness energy and do what we do to manage these events. Now, one of the things that I talked about here was climate-related deaths after we discovered oil and started using it. I mean, look at this. This information that I have here, you folks, you can all find it at energytalkingpoints.com. It's courtesy of our friend Alex Epstein. So if you look at this graph, I'm pointing at it. Of course, you can't see. If you look at this graph, as our atmospheric CO2 goes up, arguably because this is when we started really using hydrocarbons a lot. Notice I said hydrocarbons, not fossil fuels. The climate-related disaster deaths dropped off to almost nothing. We have an amazing, uncanny ability to manage climate disasters or climate-related disasters and death through our use of energy. Now, these people...
Through the use of energy and the technology that comes with it.
Exactly. These people, they want to go back to, oh, look, stones. They want to go back to the Stone Age and bring us back to, instead of where we are now in the almost nil climate-related deaths. And when I say almost nil, that's still thousands of people, by the way, but the other number's way higher. They want us back here. Why is that?
I wonder how they actually made those spray cans.
Oh, they definitely didn't use any type of...
They must have used rocks and chalk and snail's breath.
Yeah, so this is just one shameless plug for my blog. I mean, one example of why we need to do these things and host events and show people that there are conservative-leaning people and values that are there. They're not alone if they feel the world is crazy, and we need to start gathering and showing our numbers.
Yeah, I agree. Let's just jump right into the Reclaiming Canada conference. So again,
I was just there.
What's that?
I was just there.
You were. You were just there. That's why we're talking to you. But you know that. So you went out there on the Friday night, and you had a reception, and you got to hobnob with everybody.
Yeah, I met Dr. Peter McCullough for the first time,
face to face, and actually shook his hand.
Sure did. Gave him a coffee mug too.
Nice. I know you wanted to do that. When was it? I forget when it was. It was about a year ago when I met him in Red Deer, and I immediately walked up to him. And of course, he doesn't know who we are just by walking up. It's almost the same thing when people come up and talk to you and me. It's like, I recognize you, but I don't know your name. But as soon as you tell a little bit of a story, it immediately solidifies the connection. And that's exactly what I was. It was Whistle Stop. And he said, I love Whistle Stop. And immediately we shook hands and had a brief 30-second conversation before the next person behind me wanted to come up and talk too. And I'm assuming that's kind of the way this whole evening for you was. Talking with everybody.
Oh, sorry. Was that a question? You're asking me how it was?
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Yes.
It was great. I mean, you could argue that we're not saving the world by having dinner, but I would actually say that that's where campaigns to save the world start. It always starts over breaking bread or over coffee or over beers, right?
Yeah. And so over the course of the 2 days, you can see on the screen here that we've got reclaiming health and science, reclaiming tech and media, democracy and law, and the future. So these were the discussion points. So there were speakers that were talking about that, and then they would do a panel. And Chris, you were actually part of the panel on 2 of them. One was democracy and law, because you are always in trouble with the law.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's right. So can you scroll that down, Kerry, a little bit?
Yes, of course.
Okay, right there. So do you want me to just go through the whole thing?
If you want, sure. However you want to talk about it. Sure. I think it's fascinating that you were able to go and that you were up on the stage and speaking. And of course, I watched a good portion of it. I ended up buying the whatever you want to call it, the viewing package, and it was great because I was able to pause, stop. I can go back now and take a look at it too. So even if anybody does want to do that, they can always go to WeUnify. I forget exactly where it is on the website. I don't want to screw things up, but you can go on there and you can also buy it right now. It's after the fact, but you can definitely. It is 2 days, 8-hour days of video. And of that, I would say there are probably 6 hours of great content per day.
Right. I'm actually gonna ask the organizers what I'd like to do is like to chop that up into a digestible hour and a half video and then get that out there. So cross your fingers. Scroll back up there for a second, Kerry. I keep trying to scroll the screen, but it's not my share. Okay. So yes. So this conference was hosted in Victoria at the Victoria Conference Center. Now, if you go on the website and you look up Victoria Conference Center, it's in the Empress Hotel, which is one of the oldest and most beautiful hotels in Victoria, right on the harbor, right kitty corner to the Legislative Building, and kind of a little bit across the street in kitty corner from my favorite hotel in Victoria, which is the Grand Pacific. If you stay at the top floor of the suite at the Grand Pacific, you have the legislature and all the beautiful lights at night of that on the right hand side, and then your forward facing view is all harbor. So if Victoria is ever a tourist destination of yours, definitely check one of those 2 places out. Anyway, go on the website and you have a look, and it's all about how you can book a sustainable conference. You can have a carbon neutral event. They're so deep in this.
Really,
that's their marketing ploy, is that they are virtuous because they have LED light fixtures or something. And I'll tell you right now, when companies do that, it's not virtue, it's dollars and cents. Most of these companies got giant subsidies or tax breaks or whatever to buy all these things that lowered their energy costs, and it's beneficial for them. That's why they do it. That's why they don't march in the streets with signs that say, we're not going to end our future because you want us to live without oil and gas. So it was at the Victoria Conference Center. It was supposed to be in a much, much bigger room, but in the final hours, they said, well, we're worried about safety, so we're going to put you in this smaller room. That's why the tickets sold out so fast. We probably could have filled twice as many people in there, but they gave us a smaller room. Anyway, it was a fantastic room, great place to have a conference, except for the blatant wokeness. So one of the reasons for me why it was nice to have it in Victoria rather than on the mainland, even though I had to bend over and take it from BC ferries to get over there, that was expensive. And also a lot of virtue signaling there. The nice thing about doing it in Victoria is Victoria is kind of like it's the liberal woke capital of British Columbia. arguably. Maybe Vancouver in some areas is worse than Victoria, but Victoria is pretty, like, it's pretty that way. So just the fact that we were able to have a conference there, even though the NDP MLA for Victoria actually took to Twitter and the internet and said, there's a bunch of white supremacist, neo-Nazi, whatever, anti-trans, it's a hate conference, and city council needs to shut this down, blah, 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 whatever, right? Totally made up, totally ludicrous. Probably didn't know anybody at the conference, just didn't like something they said, so they tried these tactics, and it didn't work. Well, it almost worked because the conference center said, hey, this is going to be really, really dangerous. Like, we feel like the protests could get really dangerous, so you're going to have to pay $50,000 for security. So there's a bunch of wackos that are threatening and going to be violent and break the law. So the people who are going to be victimized by said actions need to shell out $50,000 to pay for security. I don't friggin' think so. That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. It didn't go that way. There was a protest out there with about 50 or 60 people. If you go to, I believe you can find information on that via our friend Drea Humphreys with Rebel News. She did a little piece on that. I've got some pictures. Actually, I uploaded them to our Google Drive, Kerry, with the sayings that were on the sidewalk in chalk.
I got all those. Yeah, I can just show the. I did a quick little video, and you can just keep talking. Yeah, that's you.
Yeah.
And
so the writing on the writing there looked like it was done by a 5-year-old, but good for you, 5-year-old. Your art skills are fantastic. Well, that's all it really was. They stood outside and said no place for hate, and trans love is love, and trans joy is real. Just these interesting sayings, most of which I could agree with. I mean, love is love. Okay, I agree with that. We all have a space. Okay, I agree with that. The only stuff I didn't agree with was the things basically accusing Christians like me of wanting people who I don't agree with to die. That's couldn't be further from the truth. The unfortunate thing about this scenario is that a simple conversation, like an actual human conversation between the people on different sides, would probably alleviate most of these things, but it just doesn't happen because they're really too busy shouting slogans and shaking at you and trying to make you uncomfortable or something to have a conversation. So anyway, it wasn't a big deal. They showed up and they spoke their mind and shared their opinion, and they were peaceful. And I commend them for that. If you have something that you want to say, you say it, and you shouldn't be worried about what anyone else says. So that was fine. Anyway, at this conference, there was speakers from all over the world, really. There was people from Australia, the United Kingdom, United States, Canada, everywhere. And they all had something to say about why is it important to reclaim Canada, that we reclaim Canada. And the further topic on this was disinformation and cancel culture type stuff, right?
Right. Yep.
Now, every one of the speakers has experienced that in some regards. And actually, the lady that you saw in the picture with me a few frames back, that was Lauren Southern. Do you remember Lauren Southern?
Yeah. Yeah.
You want to talk about getting canceled? I mean, the only person right now that comes to mind that's been canceled harder than that, well, two of them, is Julian Assange, and Tommy Robinson.
I was just going to say that because that it
just happened.
Everybody's mind. It just happened. Yeah.
It just happened. But they've tried to erase these people from the internet because they have something to say, and so having them come and speak was meaningful. Now, a lot of these doctors, they tried to cancel them because they spoke up against the narrative that we needed to destroy our lives and put whatever type of unknown or dangerous material into our bodies to deal with a coronavirus, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Ted Kuntz is he's the president of Vaccine Choice Canada. Lots of good things to say. I don't agree with everything he has to say, but it certainly has me interested in those things.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this conference, can you bring up that first one with where it said like health and science? Let me just talk about the speakers for a moment.
Yeah, sure. Yep.
If you Google Dr. Drew Pinsky, there's tons of stuff, like reality TV show, been on every podcast, interviewed by everybody, has a lot to say. The message he delivered was very similar, Kerry, to what we have heard up here. And it was, what they did was wrong. They never should have done it. We can't believe people fell for it. Now what are we going to do? Yeah. And they backed it up with evidence. So
it's interesting that you said if you Google him, because if you Google him, you will find absolutely the opposite. That he's
really,
I'll do it.
The cancel culture stuff. Yes,
it's absolutely, and that's the problem. That even when we ran the event last week, the injection of truth, it'll come up right away. Well, granted, here's his official website that comes up first, but practicing physician also maybe.
Things have changed a little bit in the last 2 years, haven't they, Kerry?
Yeah, maybe they have. Yeah. But I know the
nice thing about these doctors and these scientists that were here is they all have published peer review, or they all have peer reviewed publishings that they've done. Yeah. So you can read this stuff for yourself. You can make your own decisions. And a common theme with everybody that spoke was like, if you disagree with what I'm saying, bring your facts and evidence to the table and talk to me. And if I'm wrong, show me how I'm wrong. Steve Kirsch offered $100,000 reward for anybody who could show him where what he's saying is misinformation. Okay, if you're saying that I'm misinforming people, bring me the evidence, bring me the facts, and prove it to me, show me, and I will give you $100,000. Nobody has done it because they can't, because what he's saying is accurate. Yeah. And it's the same with the rest of them. Dr. Paul Alexander, he didn't make it.
Yeah.
He wasn't at the conference.
Yeah.
But he was worked in as a senior medical advisor to the White House during the Trump administration.
Yeah.
The guy knows what he's talking about. You don't get to those positions and be elevated like that in your career if you are not a good doctor who can practice evidence-based research. Yeah. He is absolutely fantastic. He was the one who, when we were in Ottawa during the Truckers Convoy of 2022, he brought his research and he slammed it on a desk, and he had a conference room booked and everything ready for the federal Minister of Health and the CMOH and all them to come in and debate the science and show him where he was wrong so we could get on with their lives. Of course they didn't. They can't, because the minute they debate a man like Paul Alexander or the next speaker, Jay Bhattacharya, they will fail and they will be exposed. So they don't do it. So instead of that, they try and smear and slander and cancel these people via the internet, via the ability to leverage people's emotions so that they completely ignore facts. We see that all the time, right? Mm-hmm. And then they just steamroll them into oblivion. But in this case, that didn't happen. Yeah. Because number one, the truth is on their side. And number two, there were so many of us affected by the bad decisions and the bad policy that our policymakers made based on their crappy science, their junk fake science that can't debate, that we continue to support these people that are speaking the truth. Jay Bhattacharya, his presentation was absolutely fantastic. And what a nice fella that guy is. Yeah. That was the first time I met him. I kind of heard about him when we saw the Great Barrington Declaration. Remember that, Kerry?
Right. Yep.
So the Great Barrington Declaration was, what was it? Thousands of doctors and scientists. I can't remember what the number was, but there was a lot. Maybe it was 4. I don't know. I don't know what the internet says. But all these doctors and scientists, they said, here's the research to support my statement. Now, my statement is, no, we shouldn't be locking everyone in their homes. We should be protecting the vulnerable, letting this run its course, because that's the way to handle pandemic. And number two, no, we shouldn't be Operation Warp Speeding or light speeding this untested, unproven vaccine that was never even trialed on pregnant or nursing mothers. That is a fact, by the way. Yeah. So he was the spearhead for that, and his own colleagues turned on him, tried to have him fired, tried to have him silenced, tried to have him canceled. And it almost happened, except for people like you and you and you and you, right. Even though you're a ginger, you still helped. You supported him, and the information never went away. And that's one of the beautiful things about the internet is if enough people share the information, you just can't scrub it. So his was fantastic. Dr. Peter McCullough, he has been on our show a couple times, Kerry. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Fantastic evidence-based researcher, treated people with early treatment for COVID-19 in the beginning of the pandemic, sounded the alarm, testified before the Senate, testified before congressional hearings, and has continued to this day saying, no, we shouldn't have done this. We should have focused on protecting the vulnerable, early treatment, and certainly not forcing people to take an unproven, untested injection that hasn't even been trialed on pregnant or nursing mothers. That's a fact, by the way.
Yeah. And he came up with his own self-titled name, the McCullough Protocol.
The McCullough Protocol.
Like an iodine rinse solution that if you felt the sniffles or you felt a bit of a
that wasn't the McCullough Protocol.
Well, wasn't it? Okay.
The McCullough Protocol was actually based on another doctor's protocol out of South Africa. Can't remember the guy's name, but the treatment was ivermectin. Ooh, we're going to get canceled now, right? Ivermectin, vitamin D, vitamin C, zinc, acetaminophen, and hydroxychloroquine.
Okay.
Oh, and that quinine stuff that's in, that terribly tasting stuff in grapefruit peel or tonic water.
That's right. Exactly.
That as well. That was his protocol.
Okay.
Basically, you come in presenting with symptoms of COVID-19, don't test whatever, do this treatment, don't end up on a ventilator. Very simple. He treated hundreds of patients successfully like that. Fought against his college when they said, no, you shouldn't be doing that. You need to get these patients in the hospital and get them on a ventilator. He's like, why would we try and
just do this? Yeah.
Right. And, I'm a bit of a skeptic with this type of stuff, even though what Peter McCullough was saying, Dr. Peter McCullough, in the beginning of the, my foray into this was what I wanted to hear. My bias supported what he was saying, so I wanted to believe it. I still did a little research, and my research eventually led me to phone the Ministry of Health's office in El Salvador, because I knew they were, the internet told me that they were offering that treatment. So I phoned the Ministry of Health there, and in my broken Spanish and her broken English, she confirmed that, yes, this is what the El Salvadorian health department is doing. They're sending these packages out and focusing on early treatment, and it works. So these guys aren't kooks. This stuff is happening all over the world. It's just like Europe, North America, and some other weird places like Australia, where they're persecuting the doctors and scientists that saved people's lives.
Yeah.
That's just something that should never happen. But anyway, it's happened. Yeah. Who else was there? So Ted Kuntz was on the panel. He is the chair of Vaccine Choice Canada, and he has an absolutely gut-wrenching, tear-jerking story. The Cliff's Notes on that is he, just like the rest of us, trusted his doctors, trusted the medical profession his whole life, had no reason not to. He's a psychotherapist, actually, so he's familiar with this type of thing. His son was vaccine injured severely when he was like 5 years old or something like that, and it destroyed his life.
Yeah.
Right. He went from a healthy, happy 5-year-old playing outside, doing everything, and starting to be independent to needing 24-hour care, and it was like that until he passed away at 31. So Ted has a very deep understanding of what it means to have informed consent. And he hasn't stopped advocating for that since. Dr. David, I can never say this right. Charalambous.
Yeah, that sounds good.
His story, fantastic as well. Same type of thing. Sounded the alarm, got persecuted, threatened to cancel, threatened with his livelihood, continued to speak out because he knew it was the right thing. And he's on the right side.
Yeah.
He also has a whistle stop mug. What was next there? Oh, Zuby. Do you know who Zuby is?
I didn't know Zuby until I actually looked him up because of this, but I'm surprised that I have not heard of him before.
Me too.
And you know what?
Zuby, believe it or not.
Maybe I had like a couple of years ago, but I don't know, didn't really follow it.
So he's a big dude.
Yeah.
He also holds the UK women's deadlift record.
Really?
Really?
he just decided to kind of just poke the bear doing that, or what?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
He pokes the bear. And he's been all over the world doing conferences like this, sharing a story. He's also a rapper, a pretty good one, if you ask me. Really interesting guy to talk to, young, and just made his way in life by paying attention, speaking the truth. So if you haven't already, folks, not now, actually wait till we're done, because if you leave right now, that would be rude. Check him out. He's
24
really cool.
hours as a woman, Doug says. Yeah, that's pretty funny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that just points out how ridiculous some of this virtue signaling ridiculousness is.
Yeah.
So what was that? That was the health and science.
That was the health and science. So really, in the health and science, they were talking about being shut down, what the excuse to inject people with, and then the injuries and stuff after. I guess that's kind of what the gist of it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, and I didn't tell you this yet, Kerry, but in that conference, as guests and volunteers, I met a few people that were severely injured by the COVID jab, like severely.
Really?
One was spent 6 months basically needing constant care like a small child because of what happened. Others with heart issues, organ failure, all sorts of weird things, like immediately following the jab, right? And of course, most of them, their doctors just brushed off, said, "Oh, it's just a coincidence." Yeah, friggin' right. That's not what the stats are showing now.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's not just something. Actually, for a lot of people, it's something that is happening to other people. But if you're ever in a group of people, and it's appropriate, and you have the opportunity to ask, "Does anyone in this room have you either had a vaccine injury, or do you know someone who's been injured severely from the COVID vaccinations?" You're going to see a lot of hands, and that's not something you can fake. Because people generally are shy about that kind of information. So if they're going to put their hand up and tell you, that's a pretty brave thing to do. So it's not like they're just going to make something like that up. At least that's kind of how I see it.
You know, even when Dr. Modary would come out and do the APP meetings, that was kind of one of the things he would always say is, "Do you know of anybody that's been injured or hurt or something to that effect?" And in a room of 400 people, it was almost 50% of the people knew someone that something happened to, like easily within the last couple of years. So
that is absolutely right.
Yeah.
And the really horrible part about that is we've all seen it. We all know it's occurring around us.
Yeah.
Our government knows it's happening. They're aware. They've seen the numbers. They've seen the evidence. Our premier knows.
Yeah.
And yet our province is still allowing Alberta Health Services to push that BS.
Yeah.
Like that, all this time, effort, and money spent bringing these people together who have the truth and are willing to have some balls and actually share the truth in the face of cancel culture to save other people's lives. And our government is so weak-kneed that they can't go up against the bureaucracy to end this madness. That is absolutely infuriating. And I'm really glad there's an AGM coming up this fall for the governing party of this province, because I'm going to a tongue lashing is in order for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
I agree. So let's continue on, because I know at this point we're already 53 minutes in and we've only covered one section.
Well, I only have 7 more minutes, so you're lucky.
So that was the health and science. Amazing topic. And again, if we can share it or somehow do that, then we definitely will. The next part was tech and media.
Mm-hmm. So that was interesting. Clyde Do Something he describes himself as a dyslexic mechanic from Squamish.
Yes.
And he had some YouTube stuff where he did like do-it-yourself videos and things like that as a mechanic. And while watching the convoy, watching live streams, some of my family had the same experience. Watching live streams, like from what we were doing, Kerry, watching what Global News is saying, they're like, well, Global News is saying that Kerry is crapping all over walls. And the live stream is showing that Kerry's only crapping on the hoods of cars. Just kidding. No, you get what I'm saying, though. The
I know.
news was saying we were racist, homophobes, beating people up, stealing food from homeless. Live streams were showing that it was peaceful, crime was down, the homeless were eating better than they had
Absolutely.
forever. Things were great.
They were
And so people like Clyde, they're like, the news is lying to us. And we pay these guys $1.4 billion a year of our tax money, and they're lying to us. So he eventually started doing a different podcast, ended up calling it Clyde Do Something. And that it was basically, he's just reading the news on the internet. So he reads the news and then he tells you what's really happening and backs it up with facts. Really, really cool stuff. Marty up north. Oh man, I'm going to have to go back and look up at his story, but he did something.
Marty's been on an APP webinar. I interviewed him.
That's right. Yeah. And he did something that got him on Clyde's radar and went on Clyde's podcast, and they've been a hit ever since.
Oh yes, okay.
And the charisma between these two guys is fantastic. So
not as good as Chris and mine, but
yeah, definitely not. Nothing's as good as ours, but there is that, yeah, or something. So they have a great podcast. Kaylor Betts, he bailed at the last minute, so I don't know what he's about. If you don't know who Steve Kirsch is, a quick Google search will reveal a lot. And most of it's going to say that he's a kook. But none of those people who have said that Steve Kirsch is a kook have ever been able to provide him with any evidence to support that statement.
Yeah.
And if you have any, by the way, for the trolls that are watching, please, you can get a hold of Steve Kirsch. His contact information is on his website. And you can tell him that you're willing to debate him and you can prove that he's wrong. And if you win, he'll give you $100,000. Pretty sweet deal, right? Because you're so right, you may as well get $100,000 out of it as well.
That's right. Oh, I forgot that I was actually doing this. That's
I didn't get to spend much time with him. He's kind of like, he's a little bit like me in that he's a nerd. Everything else is the opposite. I'm poor, he's rich. I'm handsome, that kind of thing. But one of the interesting things about Mr. Kirsch is that he is a nerd, and he was one of the people responsible for developing the optical mouse.
Really?
Yes.
See, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so he's been in tech and computers and that type of thing for years, and I think he's done very, very well for himself. Very well.
Well, I think everyone has a mouse.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if you have an optical mouse, thanks, Steve Kirsch.
There you go. Perfect.
Next, Umar Sheikh. He is a lawyer. Moved to Victoria. I can't remember why, but slightly pre-pandemic, I believe. And kind of figured something was up. Ended up he went to work at a law firm. And he was asked by, it was maybe a trades union or something to represent them because they were going to get fired for not taking the job. And he's like, well, yeah, of course I'll represent you. This would be an easy case to win because they're infringing on your human rights. Went to the partners of the law firm where he was employed at and said, hey, I want to do this. What do you guys think? And they said, oh, yeah, no problem. But just, bring them in the back door after night. Don't let anyone know that we're working on this. And he's like, okay, well, I quit. And he started up his own law firm. And now I can't remember what he said. He's got like 25,000 clients or something.
Wow.
A lot of clients. He's representing thousands upon thousands of people who have been affected by this with their employment or otherwise. And as a matter of fact, one of the big things that he did was he represented this actually comes before he quit at that law firm. He represented the BC Nurses Association versus the BC government when they tried to tell the nurses they had to take a flu shot to work and wear masks.
Yeah.
And he won. It took him 12 years. But in 2019, the courts in BC ruled that no, BC Health could not force the nurses to take a flu shot, and they could continue on. That was 2019. So imagine his surprise when a few years later he was going to represent a group for the same thing, and the law firm was like, "Well, yeah, but bring him in the back because this is kind of controversial." They had just won.
Yes.
A landmark case for that months earlier.
But crazy that it took 12 years to do that. 12 years is good.
That's
like how long would it take now?
That's something. That's another reason we have to reclaim, is because you go through the process in this country. I'll talk about that a little later. But you go through the process in this country, and you will be ruined completely if you manage to get through the process. If you manage to raise enough money to do it, and then you might win an apology from the government. We don't have fair judicial process in this country at all. If it costs somebody $300,000 to fight a $1,200 COVID ticket, is that justice? Is that fair? It's not. It's a pay-to-play system, and the only people it benefits is government and lawyers. So on that note, I will say one of the things that I really, really love about Umar is he was witness to, not like actually saw, but he had clients who were completely destroyed because of what the government did. And they committed suicide. So every week or two, he'd get news that another one of these clients committed suicide because there was no way out for them. It's like, oh, okay, I lost my house, I lost my job, I lost my car, I have no money, I'm homeless, I have my children are gone. Like, well, I may as well just go. So what he did is he created a program, and I think a retainer, and it's the first of its kind in this country. And he says the Law Society does not like him for it. But what he did is he told his clients, listen, you guys fundraise, and make sure out of that fundraising, you take care of each other first. Your mortgage payments are paid, your children are looked after, your vehicle payments are paid, and you can get your basic needs. After that, if there's anything left over, you can send that to us to fund this, but not before. So that's a pretty stand-up thing to do for a lawyer, right? Because lawyers are all bottom feeder scumbags, right? Wrong. They're human beings, and some of them have hearts that are a little bit bigger than others, like Umar. So again, really cool guy.
True.
Drea Humphrey, who's that?
Who is that? Who is that?
That. Our friend Drea is the Rebel News. What's the word? It's the same title as Sheila Gunn Reid. The chief, British Columbia chief something for Rebel News. Chief
editor, chief. Yeah.
She's the chief.
Yeah.
Bureau chief. The British Columbia bureau chief for Rebel News. She's done some fantastic work, including on the Kamloops never found residential school victims.
Yep.
Remember that? They did a documentary on that. If you haven't seen it, watch it. But if you have a bias that tells you that you are evil and an occupier and the church is evil and everybody wants to genocide everyone, you're not going to like that, because it asks some really tough questions, presents some really compelling evidence to the contrary of what you believe. So it will hurt your feelings, and you probably will lash out.
We also did an APP webinar on that exact same subject with Michelle Sterling. And I think we did that last week too. So same sort of discussion. Yeah.
Yep. Same sort of thing. And now the panelists, Bryce Wade, he is he's a gold and silver guy. And I'm always a little bit leery about the gold and silver people, because, there's a lot of people in this freedom movement that thought, oh, I'm just going to buy gold and silver so I'll get through everything. And I'm thinking, well, things get really bad and money doesn't mean anything. Well, gold and silver is not going to mean much either. If it costs $1,000 for a loaf of bread, what's the point of having $1,000 worth of gold? It's not going to do you anything or do you any good, right? So I think there's a lot of gold and silver people out there that just really wanted to sell gold and silver products as a fix for this thing. But the reality is, the only thing that's going to help you get through really tough times is if you are sovereign in all of your needs, including energy, food, and protection. And you have a community network to do it. So the real currency, when it's really, really bad, and I witnessed this firsthand with the people traveling from Venezuela through Colombia into the southern parts of Latin America. Currency in those times is food, medicine, ammunition. That's what currency is.
Yeah.
This guy gets that. And part of his pitch is that, yes, you can protect your wealth with physical gold and silver, and it's a smart thing to do if you have wealth to protect.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, if you want to protect your life and survive, these are the things you do. And he had 5 things: resources, assets, community, protection, food, maybe? I can't remember. Again, on his website, you can look him up and find it. But he was also one of the sponsors for the conference. So,
that's great.
Really cool.
Yeah. And again, the sponsors are a big thing. They often will go overlooked, but it wouldn't have happened unless people did step up and say, "Yeah, we'll take care of these bills, and we'll provide." Like even watching the event, the group that was putting it together, I forget who it was. I'm going to call it White Lion. I forget who it was. Doing all the video, that was their donation to it in order to sponsor. And
Eagle Vision.
Eagle Vision. I knew
they were also the ones that did Unacceptable.
Oh, well, perfect. Yeah.
Same guy.
So, sponsors for sure. Love the sponsors.
That's right. And our friends Walter and Chris, also from Mindshift Studios.
Oh,
they
yes.
did also the web design for them as a sponsor.
Awesome.
So where are we at? Lauren Southern.
Lauren
Southern grew up in Surrey, British Columbia. She was a Rebel News correspondent when she was in her late teens.
You're right.
And I think she went out on her own shortly thereafter. But her story kind of goes, she was going to school in Surrey. And what really got her paying attention was when the teachers took the white kids and put them on one side of the hallway, and the non-white kids and put them on the other side of the hallway, and then said, okay, well, this is how this works, kids. Because you're white, you guys are privileged. And because these kids are not white, they are not privileged. And you need to fix this disparity by elevating them. And Lauren's like, well, wait a minute. This white kid beside me has a really bad home life. They're really poor, and he is not privileged at all. He's just making it. That Chinese kid over there, his parents are literally billionaires.
Yeah.
And they own more real estate in Surrey than any other family. And so she really saw as a teenager that what was being told or shown was not the truth. So she got into journalism, went to work for Rebel, did some work in Canada on a multitude of issues. One of them was the trans stuff. Another one was immigration issues. And then, get this, as a 19, 20-year-old woman, she decides, it'd be a great idea to take a film crew and go to Turkey and film a documentary on the illegal people smuggling and immigration crisis that's happening over there that people are saying isn't happening. So let's just go over there and do that. Ended up in a Turkish jail. It's a pretty wild story. And then after that, she kind of disappeared. And a lot of people, including me, were wondering where she went. She ended up moving to Australia, got married, had a kid. Things went really bad in Australia because that was pandemic stuff. She was in a COVID concentration camp there with her new baby. Yeah. Her grandmother passed away in Canada while the Australian government wouldn't let her travel. Now, part of the thing about her being in Australia was they basically said, well, you can be here with your husband, who is a government guy, by the way, but you have to disavow everything you've said, cancel your YouTube channel, never do journalism again, and completely disappear from the public sphere. And she did, because that's what a good conservative, traditional woman does. They do everything they can for their husbands and support them, and that's their place. Well, she learned a big lesson, and there's a big story there that I'm hoping that she expands on a little bit. I read a little bit about it on the way out there, but it's certainly worth a read. Anyway, she's back, and she's going to be doing her thing again, which is really exciting because there is something to be said about somebody who is fearless enough to go halfway across the world and face a foreign corrupt army in order to get truth out. So with her doing her work again, it's going to be great. By the way, she's also one of the main reasons, her and Drea are the main, and Arthur, by the way, were the main reasons why the protest occurred. Because apparently they are hate embodied. They're the embodiment of hate. A pastor who feeds the homeless, a young lady, not even 30, and a black mother, a black conservative mother from Vancouver, are the embodiment of hate, racism, transphobia, all of those things. So that's why the protest occurred. And if those folks had bothered to have a conversation with any of them, they probably would have found out they don't agree with me. But aside from that, they really don't give a crap what I do with my life.
Yeah.
So all those slogans about no space for hate, or we exist. Yes, you exist. I don't hate you. Great. Good. We agree on that. Let's get past this now and reclaim Canada. But that's, of course, not what happened.
Yeah.
So the next presenter, panelist, Tamara Lich. I have no idea who that is. Let's move on. Everybody knows who Tamara is. She has been politically involved for quite some time. The most memorable for me and noteworthy is the Wexit movement.
Yeah.
And then she ended up volunteering for the convoy, started a fundraiser. The fundraiser, as you all know, raised $10 million in just a few days, twice, because so many people wanted to support the work of the truckers. And she has become a celebrity and like an icon ever since. Partly because she's a wonderful person and actually cares about people, which is why she did what she did. So, yeah, she's got a book out that you can read. She got lots of videos that you can look at. And if you don't know who she is by now, read the book. And her panel presentation was done with Mr. Chris Barber, who was one of the people who started that convoy. If you remember, Kerry, the YouTube video or TikTok video where he's saying he comes out of the bar and he's pissed because he can sit in there and have a drink. Everybody's together all day, but his friend can't come in because they don't have papers. Like, really?
Right.
And why isn't anyone speaking out against this? So that's kind of where I first saw him. And then, of course, and why isn't this whistle stop guy getting behind this? And then, of course, the video where he's talking to his son. He's like, how old are you, Jonathan? I'm 18. Yeah, 18, eh? I think it's time we go to Ottawa. I think we need to start a convoy to Ottawa. You want to go to Ottawa? And so it happened. Who's next on there?
So in the end, the reclaiming tech and media. So if you can put it into a quick summary, what?
Why do we need to reclaim tech and media? Well, because our media is bought and paid for by the government. The government gives media $1.4 billion, of which I think CBC gets 990 million or something. And then, of course, said media doesn't want to bite the hand that feeds them and runs one-sided bullshit stories and articles for years.
Yeah.
Articles that say Peter McCullough is a quack, Brian Peckford's a quack, Drew Pinsky's a quack, Dr. Jay Bhattacharya's a quack, because they don't agree to the settled science. Or how about this one? How about we need to, I just read this in Maclean's magazine. We need to build tens of thousands of carbon capture devices across the world so we can save us from the impending disaster of climate change that's being caused by our minuscule output of carbon dioxide. They get paid for that. They don't pay. They won't allow the opposing views to be in the mainstream news. So then it becomes the job of people like me and Kerry. I mean, we have better things to do. I've got better things to do tonight than this. But it becomes our job. It becomes our duty.
It's amazing how many independent media sources have popped up. Now, maybe, just maybe, independent media has been around for a long, long time. We don't know. But boy, after everything that we witnessed in Ottawa, they seem to be popping like popcorn. We said, like, anybody can start a podcast, and it seems to be everybody can. And what
you know why?
Clyde Do Something's comments are, but even at 0.005% of the population doing podcasts, there's still a lot of room for growth.
Yeah, it's not saturated. The reason why people like you folks are watching stuff like this is because we have realized that watching Friends or The Simpsons and rotting our brains so that we can catch our scheduled programs every single day and not pay attention to the world around us has got us in a heap of trouble. In addition, there is a huge appetite for truth because millions upon billions of people across the world are watching the media say one thing. They're seeing a completely different thing around them, and they're being made to feel crazy for existing in reality.
Yeah.
That's why there's an appetite. That's why people will go and watch Clyde do something and Marty up north do a podcast on the news instead of tuning into global news, which, by the way, the legacy media in this country, they're
losing numbers.
The views and the numbers are so depressed now that they're firing journalists and closing branches all over the country.
Yeah.
And they're only going to survive with more of your tax money. Your tax money is needed to prop up the legacy media so they can lie to you and convince your neighbors that you are a bad person, a waste of skin for not taking a jab that you don't need. That's what's happening in this country. That's why reclaiming tech and media is so vitally important.
Yeah.
Hitler has given everybody a radio in order to deliver his message right to their homes. That's what the government did when they bought the media and pumped their messaging into your homes. And it's worse. Not only that, the Canadian Behavioral Sciences Department does research and science to see what kind of ads or subliminal messaging can be put in this stuff to nudge you in the direction the government wants to go. That is 100% proven fact, and Chrystia Freeland even bragged about it in front of the WEF. That's why reclaiming tech and media is so important.
Excellent. So now we've covered half of them. just in case anybody's keeping track of this could easily be a 2-hour episode. So if you have to pause, can you pause?
It's not going to be 2 hours. I'll just talk faster.
So the next day, that was Saturday. So Saturday was a full night. And then did you guys do anything Saturday night, or was that everybody was?
They actually ran pretty late every night. I think it was like 8 o'clock by the time it was done. There was a supper. The supper was fantastic.
Yeah.
What did we do Saturday night?
Did you guys go out and
do much? We walked over to a hotel lounge and had a couple beers.
Yeah.
And then went to bed early.
Yeah. Because then you were up early and on Sunday. And on Sunday was your day. You were one of the panelists. So let's hear about the Democracy and Law panel.
Well,
or the speakers, I guess.
Yes.
First.
Yes, I did get the cinnamon buns on the oven, Carla. Don't worry. But they all sold by, I think, 1 o'clock. So you got to get there early to get them. I'll make them again tomorrow.
Yeah, there you go.
Everybody that's watching, and probably most of the people in this province and country, know why we need to reclaim democracy and law.
Yes. Yeah.
We have men sitting in jail. They've been there for almost 900 days. The trial drags on. The process has punished them into oblivion.
Yeah.
We can't fight back against the government unless places like Rebel Media crowd funds for us and helps us through stuff like Fight the Fines. I wouldn't have been able to.
Yeah.
Our democracy is responsible for shaping our laws.
Mm-hmm.
In that we elect people to make law. That's all we do, by the way. In this country, we don't elect governors or presidents or whatever. I mean, we elected a dictator, but that's a different story. We're supposed to elect legislators. So in the provinces, we elect our members of the Legislative Assembly, and they have one job and one job only, and that job is to make law to our benefit. That's it, nothing else. So you could argue that we actually aren't an independent nation of Canada, because the only thing we can do here is make our own laws, which still need royal assent. And we still are subjects to the crown, but that's a completely different story.
Yeah, and I believe that was talked about at the conference as well, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. It usually is, because it's a pretty important thing that nobody pays attention to.
Yeah.
But democracy shapes our law. So we're supposed to elect people that make law. We give them the power and the mandate to make laws by using our democratic voices and electing them. Then they get into office and they start doing things like drafting bills and presenting them to the House to debate on and then eventually put into law. One of the ones that we saw in Alberta here was the Provincial Priorities Act. That was a great one. Another one was the Alberta Sovereignty Within the United Canada Act. Another great one. Still no, it's no hammer to fix everything, but it's a start.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
We also have laws enacted through democracy that are not to our benefit. And you want to know what I think the biggest one is? The most blatantly obvious law that we have in this country that stifles and kneecaps our ability to defend against the government. It is illegal to defend yourself against the government in this country. In the United States, it is a constitutional foundation that the people have a militia to defend against the government. For example, if you live in Montana and you have a big ranch and the federal government says, well, sorry, we're coming to take your ranch. Here's some money. Get off your property. You can say, no, you don't have the right to do that. This is my land. And the federal government will say, actually, yeah, we're just going to do it because we're bigger than you. So we're going to do it. And you say, no, you're not. And we'd like to see you try.
Yeah.
So the federal government shows up a few days later and they've got armed people and they're going to take you off your property. What do they find? You and your neighbors on horseback armed. Sounds violent? No. It's violent that the government showed up there with guns and men on horseback to kick you off your property that you own without due process. So you stand there, you say, no, I'm going to defend my property because it's my right to defend my property and my life against threats, foreign and domestic.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want me to put down my protection, you can go to court and you can prove beforehand that my rights can be invaded in that way. That actually happened in the United States, went to Supreme Court. The guy won because the government did not have that right. In Alberta, the government said, you must shut down your businesses, destroy your lives, harm your children, ruin their education, ruin their social life. You must make sure your babies have no socialization with any other person, and everyone they see for the first 3 years of their life must wear a mask. And people said, well, we don't really like that, but we can't fight the government, so let's just destroy everything. And anybody that wanted to stand up like me or you, Kerry, we had to do it willing to accept the consequences. I had to be willing to submit to the consequence of my action, which was go to jail, go through the process that tries to destroy you, and the government knows that. That's why nobody fights them.
That's right.
So we have some huge problems in that area of reclaiming democracy and law. And the misinformation and disinformation coming from the government is that, oh, you know what? You have the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Don't worry. We won't take your rights away unless it's demonstrably justified. Well, yeah, right. They don't. The Charter specifically says before the government takes your rights away, they have to prove in a court of law that it's demonstrably justified. That's what Brian Peckford's talking about. Last signatory to the Charter of Rights and Freedoms is appalled that the government can come in, do the things they do without proving they have to do it first. Because they can do that, that means you have no rights. None. If the government doesn't want you to have them.
Yeah.
Big, big problems. Archer Pulowski knows that. Lauren Southern knows that. Eva Chipiuk, my lawyer in the class action lawsuit, knows that. Brian Peckford, the former premier of Newfoundland, Labrador, last surviving signatory to the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, he knows that. Umar Sheikh, the guy that's representing 25,000 people whose lives have been affected by this, he knows that. I know that. All know. Kerry knows that, and you know that out there too.
Absolutely, yeah.
So
really, how do we change all that? I mean, you know, the argument is well, why isn't Daniel Smith doing something about the Kuntz boys? And again, the argument with that is can't because of the way the laws are done.
I'll tell you why. But first, you asked me another question.
Okay.
Rewind to that first question. What was it? What do we do? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Art knows.
Yeah.
Art and I don't see eye to eye on a lot of things, but I will say he's still my friend.
Yeah.
I respect the man. I don't like everything he's done or everything he says, but I like the guy.
Yeah.
He says, when there's evil, you just simply tell it to get out. That sounded kind of like Arnold Schwarzenegger. He doesn't sound like that. Yeah. That's what we need to do. We need to purge everything of all of these people who enjoy the benefits of our current situation. That's what we have to do. And that is no easy task. Your second question was Danielle Smith, and why doesn't she do something about the Kuntz boys? Do you remember what I said earlier about the job of our legislators?
Is making the laws. And I agree. And I was going to go there in terms of really, I mean, she can only do what the laws are set out to do. And we don't have a law right now that basically says that she can go in and do anything.
Right.
So
and that she wouldn't get it. A law like that, that says that a premier could interfere with that, like much like a governor could. A governor in the United States, they can pardon someone. For no reason. They don't have to answer for it. They can just say, you know what? I don't like that this is happening to you. You're pardoned. And that's that. There's no more to it. That cannot happen here. Our legislators can do things like direct their ministry, the Ministry of Justice, to proceed in a specific way, or as long as they can demonstrably justify that it's to the benefit of the people of Alberta. So the line that the premier walks between legislating and interfering is razor thin. And we saw that all too well when our friend Art released that phone call where she was saying that she wanted to look into how she could help. Just her saying, I want to look into what my role is and if it's a possibility for me to help you and the Kuntz guys, that cost her anywhere between, the estimates are 5 to 7%. And we only won that election. When I say we, I mean the conservative leaning side won that election by 2,300 votes over 6 swing ridings in Calgary, Alberta. So this is not a line that any politician wants to slip off of. And let's even not talk about politicians. This is a line that I don't want to see slipped on, because I don't want our province thrown to the wolves because of something like that. So there are people out there that say, oh yeah, but she could do this. Yeah, but she could do that. Fine. Become the premier and do that and see how far you get. That's all I'll say. I personally don't think that she has anything she can do at this moment to help those guys. I don't think that no matter how much we go and protest, no matter how much information we share on the internet or whatever, the only thing that's going to help those guys is time. And that's why we need to reclaim democracy and law so we can fix those things. It is extremely unlikely that anything we do at this moment is going to get those guys out of jail any quicker than they would if they go through the system. As a matter of fact, it is more likely that anything we try and do will extend their stay, as we saw about 6 weeks ago when somebody tried to protest outside the courthouse. That cost those men another 2 months in jail, right? So there is a very, very fine line here, and I don't like it. You don't like it. The people that are yelling at me in the comments don't like it either. But I would just ask this. If we were able to walk that line so freely and get into the gray area of law and legislation and democracy and shape the province to meet our needs or suit our views, how would we like it if the opposition did the same thing? We just can't do it. There is a way, but it takes time. And the extremely unfortunate part is that people's lives are destroyed in the meantime. And
I also, I think the other side to that too is that when laws are made, a lot of people always come up with the exception that this won't work because of, some finite one or two scenario. And obviously we can't look at it that way. We have to be looking at it as, is this particular law, is it best for everybody? And I may be yelled at for that one too, because there's always going to be somebody that says, well, no, you don't understand what's going on with such and such.
That's right. Yeah, here I'm just going to put this up here real quick.
Yeah.
This is a great question. I'll just put it up right now because it's right on topic and right on point. Murray asks, does influence not count? I feel she could influence to maybe get the laws changed. Yes. A legislator that we elect can use their influence in order to get laws changed. And the way they do that is they would probably work with their CA and their staff and they would draft a bill. A bill is just it's like the beginning of a law.
Test out law.
Yeah, you present the bill in the legislature. Everybody reads it.
Yeah.
By the way, here's a side note. Your legislators do not read the bills that they sign off on, folks.
That is true.
You would be absolutely appalled to know that your MLA probably has not read bills that they have either that they have voted for or against. That is complete BS, and I think they should get fired for that. Anyway, so they present the bill. Everybody in the legislature looks at it. The opposition generally loses their mind and says a bunch of ridiculous things. The government backs up their claim, maybe listens to the opposition, changes the bill a little bit, represents it. They debate on it, and then they say, okay, we're going to do this. We won the vote. They send it for royal assent. It becomes law once they enact it, and it goes through the ministries. That's how it works. And of course, you can use your influence to do that. What you cannot influence as a legislator is judicial outcome. You cannot use your influence to change the course of something before the courts. If Danielle Smith tomorrow went on a podcast and said, I believe those Kuntz guys should be out of jail, she would not be the premier within hours. Hours. The House would convene, there would be an emergency vote, and she would be done. And I can almost guarantee you we would lose government as well. Because those people in the orange jumpsuits on the other side, oh wait, no, that's the Liberals. In the orange sweaters on the other side of the legislature, they are waiting for any opportunity to take this government down, anything. And even the hint, the whisper of influence to being used to affect the outcome of something before the courts will be enough to topple the government. So great question.
There you go. Okay. So you were on the panel for that. Actually, I think we haven't even talked about Eva and Brian Beckford. And I mean, everybody, let's just assume everybody knows who they are.
Well, I'll just say who it is real quick. Archie Pawlowski is a Polish immigrant pastor from Calgary, feeds the poor a few times a week, has been fighting the government forever. I think he likes to fight as well, just like me. He doesn't like bureaucracy, doesn't like red tape. He was the first man in Canada to be arrested for reading a Bible in public. He was the first person in Canada, Kerry, to be issued a COVID ticket. I think he might have been.
I think he was in Canada. Yeah.
But he also loves to poke the bear in the eye. And when he pokes the bear in the eye, he uses 2 fingers in both eyes, this guy. The government said, you can't have Christmas this year. You need to isolate. No Christmas for you. And Art said, everybody come to my house. I'm having the biggest Christmas party you've ever seen. Yeah. They say, don't use water. We heard that the United Nations wants to conserve water, so we're going to make up these things in Calgary so you can't use your water. Art says, I'm going to buy a pool. You know, he's that kind of guy. Lauren Southern, journalist, activist, documentary filmmaker, talks about things that the strongest men on the planet don't have big enough balls to talk about. That lady's got some cojones. Go back and look at some of her work that she's done. You can still find a little bit of on the internet, but she had
to be scrubbed.
Yeah. She was pretty much erased off the internet. Partly because it was for love. She wanted her family and her husband and that type of thing.
They took away her computer, her hard drive, and all that. So good luck trying to find
at the airport.
Yeah.
At the airport. You want to come into Canada? You want to go through the US? Okay, I'll give me your computer, your hard drive, your cell phone, everything. All your passwords. Horrendous stuff. Eva Chipiak, she is my lawyer with Rath & Company, suing the Alberta government on behalf of all businesses in Alberta that were affected by the illegal COVID mandates that caused damages to our business and persons. She also has a podcast where she's trying to help empower Canadians to be more involved in the democratic process and know where they stand in law. So that's something worth checking out. You can find her on X. Brian Peckford, the Honorable Brian Peckford, is the last living signatory to the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, former Premier of Newfoundland Labrador. His story is fantastic. He also has a blog. You can find it at Kerry.
Peckford 42.
Peckford 42. That's right.
I'm going to look.
Born in 42.
Heckford42.wordpress.com.
Yeah.
I'm going to put that in the notes too.
He's got some great stuff on there, and just an amazing man. We had the blessing to have lunch with him and his wife Carol before we went down to the conference in Victoria. Fantastic people. And Umar Sheikh, we already went over that. He is a lawyer from Victoria representing over 25,000 people that have been affected by the mandates.
Yeah.
So the next new person there is John
you?
Carpe. Huh?
Oh, John Carpe.
No, nobody wants to hear about me.
Yeah.
Clyde Do Something, podcaster, dyslexic mechanic podcaster who reads the news on YouTube and then tells you what's really going on from Squamish, BC. Chris Scott, a long, lengthy talker from Muir, Alberta, spends his time making cinnamon buns and hamburgers.
Amazing cinnamon buns and amazing burgers.
That's true story. John Carpe, he is with the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms. Again, doing what he can to help people fight these things as they come. You can, what is their website? Just Justice Center for JCCF.ca.
Yeah.
Is it .ca?
Well, I'm going to say it is.
Sure, you can find it.
Yeah, I will look.
And that brings us to Sunday evening, the panel on the future.
There is, yeah, .ca.
There is, yeah. Yeah, so the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms has had some wins and had some losses. John is a bit of a controversial guy because he really would go a long way to try and expose the corruption that's going on. You'll find that on the news, folks. It's a pretty good read. Reclaiming the Future. Dr. J. Bhattacharya, Great Barrington Declaration. David Charalabas, what science is he?
I would almost say like he's definitely a scientist, like psychology and numerology and all the knowledge.
Because his presentation was like, this is what they did to us and how they did it. And this is why I spoke up, because I saw them doing these things. Some of the things that he mentioned that the UK government did, the one that sticks with me the most is there was a committee put together to try and get more people uptake on the vaccine. And they identified the problem was the young people had not been thoroughly, what was the word? They had not been thoroughly, not traumatized, terrified. They have not been yet thoroughly terrified. So they unleashed a horribly terrifying marketing campaign to scare the crap out of young people into getting the vaccination. And do you know what the one major slogan was that adults were saying to children? Well, you'd get a vaccination to save your grandma's life, wouldn't you?
Oh, yes. Yeah, that's right. That's exactly the way it was.
Sickening things they were doing.
I agree.
You can find that information on his webpage as well.
Yeah.
Everybody knows Tamara Litch and Chris Barber, Ted Kuntz, the president of Vaccine Choice Canada. Taylor Betts didn't show up. So that's the speakers.
Yeah. So reclaiming the future. So obviously we went through health and science, tech and media, democracy and law. So what happens in the future? What should we be doing?
Do I look like I have a crystal frickin' ball, Kerry? What happens in the future?
Yes, I would like to know.
Well, that depends on you.
Yeah.
I'm not just talking to you, Kerry. I'm talking to you folks watching. What happens in the future depends on you. Yeah. And don't ask me what happens in the future. Make it happen yourself. If you want a future where you're free and you actually believe in the values that make this country what it is, if you actually believe in informed consent and personal choice, make it happen. Don't ask me. Don't ask Kerry. Ask yourself, what small thing can you do tomorrow or today, right now, that's going to get you closer to what you want to see the world like? Is it just sharing this webcast? Man, this is really burpy Pabst beer today. I don't know what's going on.
And I'm just doing the Canada Dry. Just because
I should have done the Canada Dry. I think I'm allergic to beer, by the way. So that's going to really change our relationship. So let me get back to where I was at, because the future, that's an important thing. What type of, ask yourself, what type of future do you want to have for your children? What do you want to see? When you imagine your children in the future. Do you see them in an apocalyptic wasteland where everyone's got a Ukraine flag in one hand, the pride flag in the other hand, and nobody can have babies because everybody's chopped their parts off? Is that the future you want? Do you want a future where we have 10,000 carbon capture devices all across the country, pulling carbon dioxide out of the air to the point where our food's not growing properly and saving ourselves from this massive heat weather? What do you want?
I think one of the silver linings of 2020 and the events that happened with that is that it did wake everybody up, because I know for a fact, and Chris will attest to this, we were not involved in politics. We were very apathetic about everything. And I'm sure 95% of the viewers on here were exactly the same thing. We just didn't know. And you don't know what you don't know. But now that you know, I think it's almost like it's our own civic duty to be involved. And
you don't know what you don't know. And when you know,
exactly right.
Where are you going to go?
Mm-hmm.
And how is your food going to grow? If you ask yourself if there's CO2 and you say no.
I don't know.
How was that?
It's kind of Dr. Seuss issue. It sounded good.
I tried.
But
That's
you're right.
That was really what I got out of the future part. It was people talking about not like what's going to happen in the future, but what are we going to make happen in the future?
Yeah.
I'm listening to Jordan Peterson's book right now, 12 Rules for Life or whatever.
Okay.
And that's one of the things he says. If you have a problem, like say you got tax issue and you got piles of receipts everywhere, and you look at it, you're like, oh, it's too big to deal with. Nothing's going to happen. If you look at our government and the bureaucracy and the garbage that's going on around you, say, oh, it's too big to deal with. You're never going to do anything. But you could say, well, I'm going to run as an MLA and become the premier. That's a pretty lofty goal. Might be a little bit lofty. Maybe you want to take it back a few notches. How about I'm going to sit on my CA board and participate in the democratic process. Maybe that's a little bit too much. How about I'm going to go to a CA meeting or a CA meeting once a week?
I would definitely suggest everyone do that. Yeah.
That is a big thing. If 30 people in every CA did that, and you're all like-minded and you all want to make the world a better place, 30 voices in a room where there's usually only 10 or 20 or 30 people there, that's going to make a difference.
Yeah.
Maybe it's, maybe you like what Umar is doing, Umar Sheikh, and you want to go over to Sheikh Law and send them $10 to help somebody fighting a COVID case or a COVID fine or whatever. Maybe you want to make a donation to Rath & Company to help them with the class action lawsuit for business. It doesn't have to be financial. I'm just giving you examples. Just one small thing that you can do every day that's going to influence the outcome of your future. That's what we're talking about when we talk about reclaiming the future.
And we always say, how do you eat an elephant?
One bite at a time.
One bite at a time. That's right. And that's the only way we're going to get through all these elephants. There's a lot of elephants that we have to eat.
That is true. And Rita points something out here. The future doesn't look good, according to Chris Sky,
who
just spoke on Shadow Davis' show.
Yeah. And you know what?
I never thought that the future looked particularly good, FYI.
No. I was just going to point out the fact that, we do these webinars every Wednesday. I wish we could do more of them, but that's all the time I have. And if anybody else wants to step up and maybe do something else on another day or even do your own podcast, I think supporting people like Shadow Davis and somebody asked, do we know Jason Levine? Do we know Jason Levine? Yes.
Somewhat.
Yeah. Chris and I have been on Jason's Jason's show, and he's come on ours, and he's following the Kuntz guys, and we will be talking with him about that at some point. It's just he's so busy, we're so busy. There's only so much finite time that we can do things. But by all means, please follow the independent media. Follow Clyde Do Something. Follow Marty Up North. And the problem with that is now all of a sudden, instead of just watching us, you're now watching 10 different shows. But what I
used to watch 10 different programs anyway. Do you remember back in the day when you're like, oh, I have to get home at 7 p.m. because I got to watch a show?
Yeah.
Our lives were literally scheduled around TV shows.
Yeah. And maybe that's exactly why we're in this shit that we're in.
Bingo. Friends wasn't so friendly for our future now, was it?
No, that's right. So don't be apathetic. Make sure that you're out there doing something. And even, we always say, like, maybe not always say, but I say, do the 5-5-5, right? With the APP and spend 5 minutes a week, maybe even 5 minutes a day, sharing, liking, sending the message out. And it doesn't even have to be ours, although we would certainly like it if it was ours. But just share other people's stuff. There's always something good out there. The downside is then you'll be a slave to Twitter and everything like I am. I just seem to be, I don't know.
Kerry, people said that about the telephone when it was first invented when you were in your 20s.
That's a true story. Yeah. Alex and myself used to just hang out and just say, "Do you hear me? Do you hear me?"
Yeah.
I don't think that's true.
Kerry, come here. I want you.
I need you.
He said, "I want you."
There's nobody. I thought it was, "I need you."
No, that's what he should have said, but he didn't. And I don't know if it was intentional, but that's what he said. It was not Benjamin Frank. Tom's. Oh my goodness, Alexander Graham Bell.
That's right. So I'm not even sure.
Talk about that though first.
What's that? Talk about what?
I'm pointing at it, but you can't see that.
I can't see it. So why don't you bring that up then?
The future doesn't look good, according to Chris Sky, who just spoke on Shadow Davis's show.
Who's in? And someone's going to probably say that's not true. He's in Nicaragua, Tunisia.
No, Istanbul or something. Turkey.
No, Istanbul. That's where he is. Yeah, used to be Constantinople, and now it's Istanbul.
We should play that song for the outro. That's a great song. That is such a good song. Love it. And you know where I learned that song from?
Men or Men Without Giant. I forget what it's called.
Yeah. It was Looney Tunes, or not Looney. Yeah, Looney Tunes. That's where I learned
it probably was. Yeah.
Anyway, okay, here. So Rita said, the future doesn't look good, according to Chris Sky, who just spoke on Shadow Davis' show. Sure, the future doesn't look good right now. It hasn't looked good for me for a very, very, very long time. I've seen the world going to hell in the handbasket, and I just said, well, I guess that's what's going to happen. Hopefully it's not my lifetime. I didn't think the future looked good when I opened my restaurant, and I was sitting with Sergeant Bruce Holliday.
Yeah.
May he rest in peace. And he said to me, this is the first or second day that I was open against restrictions. He said to me, you shouldn't do this. I respect you for standing up for what you believe in, but you cannot win against the government. You won't win. I see this all the time. It's not going to end well for you. And I'm telling you, man to man, nothing about police or whatever, you cannot win, and you should just get out while you can. And I don't remember what I said to him, but I didn't say much. But it was at that moment that I realized that he was right. Mm-hmm. I don't have the capacity to fight the government. It costs millions of dollars to fight the government. The government is huge. They have an endless supply of money, which part of it is mine. And yeah, they just protect their structure. And I did it anyway, not because I thought it was going to make a better future for me, because I knew it was the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. Now, if we agree that maybe the future doesn't look so good, what does that mean that our role is now? Is our role to just stop doing what we know is right and roll over and try and be as comfortable as we can? Do we just go grab a tub of Vaseline and wait for the government? I don't think so. And the other thing is, when I think of the future, I think of the ideal future for me. The Whistle Stop Cafe is like 18 stories tall. There's big flashing lights. It's like Las Vegas of Alberta. And every time somebody drives by who wanted to, or who was ratted out their neighbors and stuff, they'll see the Whistle Stop Cafe and be reminded that they were on the wrong side. That's my ideal future. But I had to check myself and acknowledge that the future and whatever plan is there is not under my control. Mm-hmm. And I cannot possibly understand or comprehend it. In my life, I take comfort in the belief, the knowledge that something greater than myself has already decided and written what the future looks like. And that's a perfect plan. And it's going to be that way regardless of whether I go gracefully or kicking and screaming.
Yeah.
Because it's a perfect plan, even if my future doesn't turn out to look the way I wanted it to look, it's not my ideal version of the future, I'm going to freaking rejoice about it because I know that's the way it's supposed to be. And I know that not everybody feels that way. Maybe you feel like this. The future's going to be crappy. You're going to have an opportunity to fight, and you like to fight. Not necessarily physically, but, intellectually and verbally or whatever. It doesn't matter what the future looks like. That should never influence your actions. If it did, we would have lost every single war in the name of freedom ever.
Well, I also take a little bit of solace thinking that only 5 or 10% of a population can make change, or basically be a positive influence in change.
It only takes that much.
It only takes that much. And so if we are part of that 5%, then I'm definitely part of that 5%. And I'm going to give it as 110% of that 5%, which means that it would be about 6%.
Here, I'm going to say a little something about Chris Sky. Don't take what I said at all as that I'm trying to crap on the guy.
Yeah.
If I was in his shoes, he's got some money. He's probably going to just be okay. I'm sure he could be okay just with his Instagram stuff. He was before. He could do it again.
Yeah.
Maybe I would do that as well. Maybe I would go somewhere where I was more comfortable and can raise my family and live my life in peace. I mean, isn't that what life is all about? To give your family the best possible future and outcome you can? Maybe if I had won millions and billions of dollars, I wouldn't have an 18-story whistle stop. Maybe I would be wherever Chris Sky is enjoying my life. I don't know. I'm not judging him for that. I think everybody has to find their own way. And if I zoom out just a little bit more on this, I think, well, there's a plan, right? And I've always wondered, why isn't it me that wins the 70 million? Why don't I have my job where I was making $400,000 a year anymore? Why am I not wealthy? Why can't it be me? And the answer is, if it was me, I wouldn't be who I am right now, and I wouldn't be where I am right now doing the things I'm doing.
That is very true. Yeah.
So there is a method to this madness. Our underdeveloped human brains, of which we only use 14 to 16% of, if that, cannot comprehend it. So don't bother. Just do what you know is right and try and make the future the best possible future that we can have. And you can do it in little itsy bitsy tiny ways. It doesn't have to be a world changing thing.
That's right. Yeah. And I was just going to say, there's probably a reason why you and I are still walking around after being hit by a train.
Wow, there's another one, right?
I mean, who
has a story like that?
That is
one of my customers got hit twice, but that's another story.
Or hit by lightning. I actually talked to somebody that got hit by lightning before too. Yeah, that's crazy. No lightning. I don't know.
Yep. No lightning.
Well, with that, I think that's how we're going to wrap things up. I mean, you and I could easily talk for another hour on a bunch of different things. We're not going to do that unless.
I love talking with you, by the way. Just so you know, I really do.
Well, maybe we'll do some talking this weekend.
That'd be awesome.
It is Canada Day coming up for anybody that follows the Julian calendar. I don't know why I said that.
Is it Canadians Day?
It's Canadians Day on July 1st. And it's Alberta Day on, I think it's September 1st, isn't it? Is that the Alberta Day? Yeah. 1905? Yes. Yeah. So, but at the Whistle Stop, you're planning on doing something out on July 1st on the Sunday?
So here's what's going on at the Whistle Stop Cafe in Mirror, Alberta this year, because
this is sponsorship time, people. Yeah, go ahead.
I have no shame about being a capitalist. Let's get one thing straight, folks. I am a capitalist. I will offer the best products I can to get as much money out of your pocket into my pocket so that I can live my life. That's my goal as a capitalist. But I'm fair about it. You get a good product, and if you're not happy with what you get at my place, I'll replace it or fix it. So there is no shame in this at all. But here's the plug. Canada Day, Canadians Day this weekend at the Whistle Stop Cafe in Mirror, Alberta. Number 1, free camping on any of the overflow places on my property. And my property is quite large. The full service stuff is all booked.
Yeah, okay.
Number 2, if you are a vendor or an artisan or a permitted food vendor, you may come to the Whistle Stop Cafe in Mirror, Alberta and set up your stand anywhere you want, free of charge, and sell your wares. You can sell your flags by the highway. You can sell bracelets that you made by the highway. You can put your repurposed clothing stuff right beside the Whistle Stop door, whatever you want to do. It's completely free. All I want is people to come there and buy a hamburger from me. I don't have any formal schedule. There is no lineup of speakers. If you have something you want to say, it will be on you to come there and talk to people and make individual connections. And maybe you'll have a group of people that wants to listen to what you have to say. I will offer you the opportunity for that. You must do the work. There will be some music, but I'm not going to do music all day, every day like we did before, because in order to do that, I would have had to do another special developments permit application. I would have had to get all my dates in. I would have had to book bands to spend a bunch of money, which I don't have. I would have had to expend a bunch of energy, which I don't have. So this year, we will be doing a few sets of music on the stage, free of charge. I am paying the bill for those bands. And probably Kerry too, because I usually forget my wallet.
He does forget his wallet.
But we're paying for that. Yeah. If you come and you enjoy the weekend and you want to throw a few bucks in the bucket to cover that cost, great. If you don't, that's fine. I'm doing this for you. This is what I'm doing. I'm offering you my facility for the weekend to come and gather and have some interaction with other human beings, hopefully freedom-minded, and maybe even some not freedom-minded people whose minds you could change. That's what's going on at the Whistle Stop. Tamara will be there with her band on, which day is it again? Is it Monday or Sunday?
Monday, July 1st.
On Monday, July 1st. Why July 1st? Oh, anyway, she'll be there. She's going to play some music. Kerry and I are both going to play with her, right, Kerry? Yes, the answer is yes. That's why that drum set is set up back there, because I've been practicing a little bit. We're just going to have a great time.
Yeah.
And of course, the kitchen will be open. There's going to be great food. I'll make as many cinnamon buns as I can.
You should start making cinnamon buns now, except then they probably get expired.
That's true. Yeah. I'll just come in really, really early. I'll make a bunch of trays that they can just throw in the oven. But the other thing is I'm cooking all weekend. I don't have enough staff that I can be doing all these things anymore. I'm literally, when you come to the Whistle Stop Cafe in Mirror, Alberta, and you're camping or whatever, or celebrating Canadians Day, and you want a hamburger, it's probably going to be me who makes it. So that's where I'm going to be.
Yeah. So if you want to talk to Chris, you got to know how to flip a burger and go stand beside him and flip burgers.
Right. But stay out of my kitchen or I'll smack you with the spatula.
Something to that effect. And I think I'll be driving up there on Sunday. I've got other events to do Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And then I'll be up there on Sunday at some point. Not even sure what I'm going to be doing or whatever, but the load will probably fall on me to do whatever I can.
And by whatever you can, he means everything.
So there you go. So hopefully we can see you guys for Canada Day. If not, I'm wishing all of our viewers an amazing Canada Day, or as we call it, Canadians Day. And then maybe we should do something for September 1st. I haven't even looked at the calendar.
Yeah, Alberta. Sure, let's do it. But guess what? I'm going to be closing partially in September.
Oh, what's happening then?
Well, my grandma and grandpa are 91 and 92.
Yes.
My grandma, well, they're my heroes, by the way. Like when I was born, my mom and dad lived with my grandma and grandpa for my first year. So I've always been very, very attached to my grandma and grandpa. Anyway, they're old. Grandma has a heart valve that's closing. She's had heart surgery before. It's one of those things where she can't have surgery now, and it's going to close and she's going to die. My grandpa is, he's old. They're to the point now, get this. They're both Christians. They both have some health issues because they're old. Did I mention that they're really old?
Yes. Yeah.
And they've said, we've had great lives. We've had awesome families. We have an amazing time here. It's going to be their 70th wedding anniversary this September. 70. Wow. They've been married 70 years, which means that my grandmother has the patience of a saint. because you should meet my grandfather. Anyway, they've said to the family, like, we're so happy to be here. And if we just make it to our 70th wedding anniversary and then we go, we'll be happy. So now that's really getting my eyes wet even right now talking about it.
Yeah.
So September rolls around, I will be sacrificing my livelihood and income to go spend some significant time with my grandparents.
Well,
So
you got your priorities straight on that. So kudos to you.
That's the only part of the future that I can tell is that eventually it ends.
Yeah. And I'm certainly not going to step on your heels, but I just wanted to give a shout out to my mom and dad who celebrated their 60th wedding anniversary. And we had a party for them just a couple of weeks ago at down here as well. So with some family and friends and outside. And if you remember what it was like a couple of weeks ago, it was windy, it was cold. That's summer in Alberta.
Yep. You know what? The wind, sorry, Kerry, the wind is blowing right in my eye right now. Yeah, I'll be okay. Yeah, it's really windy in my house. It was the cat.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so let me just get back to the shameless plug. And there's no shame here because I am a capitalist and I will earn an income and do business the best way I can. I'm working very hard at my business to try and keep that place going and keep it afloat. It's not easy. It wouldn't have been easy even with all that other stuff had not happened, but it's difficult. So what am I doing now? In addition to making food and running the gas station and the RV park, I'm also doing interesting little things like this. You see that on my wall up there?
Oh, yes, the metal, what would you call it? A metal die cut?
Yeah, it's a laser cut piece of stainless steel, and actually that's a replica, a smaller replica of the one that's hanging in the Woodstock Cafe. People came in and they loved that thing. They asked, "Where can I get it?" I said, "Well, it's a gift. It's not for sale. It's never going to be for sale, and you can't have it." And I decided, you know what? I'm not going to be ashamed of engaging in capitalism and doing things that people want in exchange for the money. So I had some made, and they're on my website. We did up a bunch of these little convoy pins, and they're also on my website. We've sold like 600 of these things already.
What?
Why do I choose this type of thing? Because this event for me was a very, very significant time of my life, as it was for many, many other people. So if I can provide them a product or service that helps them remember that, and when they look at this, it brings back those memories, I will do it, and I will be happy to sell them to people. I wish I was a millionaire, I could give them away, but I'm not, so I sell them. Same with the cups. Just little things that I feel they're important. So yeah, if you want to support me or what I'm doing, just buy my stuff. I sold 2 of those things on the wall already. They're going to get shipped out tomorrow. And I really, really appreciate you guys throughout this whole time coming to my cafe, eating my food, putting up with the horrible service when it's just me working, and buying my stuff off my website. It means the world to me. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you for everything that you have done, Chris. And it's been an absolute pleasure to be able to call you a friend, a close buddy. And I'm looking forward to this weekend where maybe we'll even be able to spend an hour actually drinking more than just Canada Dry for me.
Ha. Yeah. Well, the other thing is, Kerry, I in the last few months, I've actually a few people that I know that I'm friends with, they've ran into some significant problems with effects of alcohol in their body. So I'm really looking at probably not drinking too much beer in the future.
Okay.
It's just not worth it. The future comes pretty fast, and I want to make sure my future is a good one for not only me, but also for my kids and my grandkids. So yeah, that's
wise words.
Yeah. A couple beers, maybe that's it.
Yeah. Somebody says 66 watchers. We've got 166 on my view here. So there you
Which
go.
is way lower than it used to be. We used to be thousands of views.
Well, people are busy right now. And you know what? Having said that, people watch live and they watch it in like 5 or 7 minute chunks. And I'm sure almost everybody on here does that. And then they come back and watch later. And it's amazing. We'll get 30, 50,000 views on one of these after a week. And that's just the way it is. So even though it's not necessarily live, we get to see the numbers after. So
yeah, I always get told if I didn't talk so longly that we'd get more views.
So having said that, I'm gonna say good night to everybody. Thank you so much for watching, and Chris, all the best to you for the weekend, and thank you so much for heading out to the Reclaiming Canada conference and reporting back. And I know there's conferences, there's stuff going on all the time, and if anybody can get involved, then please do. And if they want to report back on it, you can always get a hold of us at contact at albertaprosperity.com, and then let's have a conversation about what's going on. So with that,
for those of you that are wondering why I'm not at more of these things, it's really expensive. Like, I had to take a week off work, and just traveling out there, even in my diesel Jeep, by the time the dust settles, like $1,000 to go out there and back, and I just can't do that very much these days. So that's why it was worth it.
All right. So with that, everyone have a great night, and we'll see you next Wednesday. And if not, hopefully we'll see you this weekend at the Stop Cafe in Mere, Alberta.
I'll be there.
You will, and so will I. Okay. Thanks. Good night, everybody.
Good night.